The world has changed because what Trump has done. And the American people, including independents and some Republicans, know how bad he is, know how much he's misrepresented, know how he's getting close to getting us in a war. I said, as the walls close in on this man, I'm worried he's going to get us to war in Iran. Unfortunately, I may have been right. The fact of the matter is there's a lot at stake in this election.
This is my video update on this Sunday afternoon, April the 14th. Let's talk about some news. And of course, we are going to talk about Israel and Iran. The Iranian retaliation into Israel that took place yesterday evening. Things really went off yesterday evening. I was saying in my video update from yesterday, I was questioning actually in my video update yesterday, would Iran really launch an attack on Israel in the way and the time frame that the Biden White House was talking about? Would Iran really launch a strike into Israel with hundreds of drones and missiles within the 48-hour time frame that the Biden White House was warning about? And sure enough, that is what happened. And I had doubts. that Iran was going to fall into this trap. But that is exactly what took place yesterday evening. And I think that really is the question that we all have to ask today, which is whether this was indeed a trap to get a wider war in the Middle East, a trap set out for Iran by the neocons and by Israel, Netanyahu, to pull the U.S. into a Middle East conflict, to pull the U.S. into a war with Iran. And did Iran fall into this trap? Yes and no, I guess is the correct answer. Yes and no. And I was watching Alexander's video update from yesterday, and he referenced an article from yesterday from the Financial Times with the title, Iran signals calibrated retaliation to Israeli strike. And this article was put out by the Financial Times a little before the strike actually took place. But this Financial Times article, which cited various officials close to the Biden White House and the Financial Times, they do seem to have special access to the Biden White House. I don't know why, but the Financial Times seems to have very good sources, very good information into the going-ons of the Biden White House and the Biden foreign policy whiz kids. And this Financial Times article, it basically says that the Biden White House, through Oman, was engaged in back-channel diplomacy to calibrate the Iranian response. And the Biden White House would then relay its back-channel diplomacy to Israel. So Biden White House via Oman to Iran, calibrating what this response from Iran was going to be, because you had to get a response from Iran. Iran had to respond. Their embassy was attacked. And then the Biden White House was liaising with Israel. That is pretty much what this Financial Times article was reporting. And this Financial Times article was posted a little before the actual response, retaliation, took place. Here's what the Financial Times says in this article. And they're hinting at a U.S.-Iran back-channel calibration, coordination. Tehran is unlikely to target Israeli diplomatic facilities in the region, said an official briefed on talks between Iran and Oman, the Gulf state that has often facilitated back-channel diplomacy between Tehran and Washington. So in this sentence from the Financial Times, talking about the calibrated Iranian attack, the Financial Times is basically saying, without coming out and saying it, they're hinting at the fact that Tehran is speaking to Oman. Oman is speaking to the United States, and they're calibrating their response. And obviously, Washington is speaking to Israel. And this is as close as you're going to get to the Financial Times just reporting, the Biden White House via Oman, they're speaking with Iran and they're discussing how all of this is going to go down. No diplomatic targets. We're going to hit military facilities. We'll give an ample amount of time to Israel to prepare, and Iran gets their retaliation. They get to showcase their military capabilities. They get to showcase new weapons, hypersonic missiles, and Israel they have time to prepare for this attack. And barring any miscalculations or something going wrong, if there are no casualties, that is what the Financial Times article actually says. And keep in mind, this is before the attack actually took place. If there are no casualties, the Financial Times was reporting, then Israel can defend against the attack, and as long as there are no casualties, as long as we're talking about military targets, and as long as the damage is not extensive, that could be the de-escalation. That is pretty much what this Financial Times article was reporting before the attack took place, and that's kind of how everything unfolded. So we're going to kind of wait and see now what Netanyahu and what Israel does. But this whole affair really reminds me of everything that happened with Soleimani. And here's what I posted on Twitter X and on Locals. Reminds me of the Soleimani affair. Iran launched ballistic missiles at the Al-Assad air base in Iraq in response to the assassination of Soleimani by a U.S. drone. This was in early 2020, I believe. Iran informed the Iraqi government of an imminent attack beforehand. Switzerland was relaying messages between U.S. and Iran before the strike. The strike was deliberately designed to avoid causing any fatalities. In order to dissuade a U.S. response, Iran got its big retaliation and strike on a U.S. airbase. And Trump continued to say he took out Soleimani. Escalation, war was averted. And an article from Reuters at the time had the title, Swiss deliver U.S. message to Iran over Soleimani killing. In this article, Reuters talks about how Switzerland, very much like Oman in this instance, Switzerland back then was the go-between. The United States and Iran, and Switzerland was relaying messages between the two countries, and Iran was going to attack a U.S. airbase, and the U.S. airbase was going to be evacuated so as to avoid any casualties, and that was a de-escalation. And Trump was able to go around and say that he took out Soleimani, and Iran was able to celebrate a big attack on a U.S. airbase. And that was pretty much the off-ramp to the entire Soleimani killing, which, from what I understand, it was Pompeo that kind of orchestrated the whole thing. That's my understanding of the events that unfolded with Soleimani. I could be wrong about that, but I remember that incident, and I remember the off-ramp. The Trump White House with Switzerland, liaising with Iran, talking with Iran, and that's how they got the off-ramp. This one's a lot more complicated because it's the Biden White House going through, at least if you go off of the Financial Times reporting, or the Financial Times hints as to what is going on, because they're hinting at what's going on. It's the Biden White House through Oman speaking with Iran, and then the Biden White House has to then go to Israel as well. And all of this calibration, as the Financial Times puts it, has to take place in order to avoid a wider war. And then you run into the big question, which I mentioned earlier. What does Israel do? Does Netanyahu continue to go along with this narrative, this calibration, or does he break with the Biden White House? And does he strike out against Iran? Does he retaliate against Iran's retaliation? Some members, hardliners in Netanyahu's administration, are already saying that a strike, a retaliation, is going to be planned in the next 48 hours by Israel towards Iran. But there are other people in Netanyahu's administration that are signaling that they were victorious. They took down 99% of everything Iran threw at them, and this was a victory, a show of strength from Israel, a show that something that showcasing Israel's defenses, and also showcasing the U.S. Air defense systems. I guess the Patriots. So the military-industrial complex can now go off and sell some more Patriots, I guess. But what does Israel do? What does Netanyahu do? Does he go along with this, or does he decide to test the Biden White House? And when I mean test the Biden White House, I mean that the Biden White House, they have given the Netanyahu administration a blank check to do whatever it wants. And the Biden White House has said on many occasions now that their support of Israel is ironclad. That's the new buzzword, ironclad. And so you have kind of mixed messages going on here. The Biden White House is trying to get Israel to call it a day. Iran got their retaliation. They can go off and celebrate, and that's what's happening in Tehran. They're celebrating this strike on Israel. Israel can say that they won out. Their defenses held strong. They knocked down 99% of everything that Iran threw at them, and they can leave everything there. That could be the end of this. And that's what the Biden White House is trying to get Israel to do, trying to get Netanyahu to do. And the Biden White House, they have even come out with statements saying that they will not they will not go along with a war against Iran. That is what the Biden White House has said. They will not go to war with Iran. That's an official public statement. But will Netanyahu play along? Or will Netanyahu, with the encouragement, the nudging of the neocons, will he decide to test the Biden White House and say, you know what, Biden White House, I am going to retaliate, to launch an attack against Iran. And the way I see it, even though publicly you are now on record saying that the U.S. will not go to war with Iran, I'm going to call you out on that statement. Maybe you could say call you out on that bluff, but let's just say call you out on that statement, and see if it holds. Because Netanyahu may calculate that if I do launch an attack against Iran, the Biden White House will have to come to my aid, to my support, to give me support. Israel can't do this on their own. They can't go to war with Iran on their own. They're going to need the United States. They need to draw the United States into this war. And maybe Netanyahu is going to calculate that, yeah, Biden is saying that he's not going to go to war with Iran, but if I do escalate with Iran, I know that Biden's going to fold. He's going to go back on this statement, and he is going to come to my aid. So, we have to wait and see. We have to wait and see what Netanyahu's next move is going to be. If this was any other time during Biden's presidency, then Biden would be all in. as far as a war with Iran goes, because Biden is also a neocon and he also wants a war with Iran. So if this was any other time in Biden's presidency, we would have a huge war. But because this is a re-election, we're in the middle of a campaign, and Jake Sullivan, who does run Biden's foreign policy, he is the foreign policy president of the United States. He is a campaign manager. That's what he does. He's a campaign guy. Jake Sullivan, I believe, is trying to de-escalate this. He knows that the Biden re-election would not be able to sustain a war with Iran. Biden would get crushed if the U.S. goes to war with Iran. And I think Jake Sullivan understands that. And that is why they've calibrated via Oman with Iran, and they're trying to get Israel to go along with this. And right now it looks like Israel is going along with this for now, but things can change. I don't know. Things could change in the next hour or in the next 24 hours or 48 hours. But Sullivan is working on this being the de-escalation. Israel can call this a success. They successfully defended. Iran can go and call this a success. They successfully retaliated, and this whole thing could be over. But we don't know. We don't know if Netanyahu is going to test Biden's resolve. The Biden White House could hold firm and tell Netanyahu under no circumstances are we going to go to war with Iran. He could relay that message to Netanyahu and be very firm about that message. And then Netanyahu would have to think very long and hard about escalating with Iran, because without the United States, he would not be able to do it. So with good diplomacy and good messaging, the Biden White House can get out of this mess. And then this whole thing could be over. But, we're talking about the Biden White House, and their messaging has not been good. It's been mixed messaging. On the one hand, they're saying that their support for Israel is ironclad. On the other hand, they are saying that they will not get into a war with Iran. I'm actually looking for the title from CNN, which actually says this. 1 second. CNN, Biden told Netanyahu the U.S. will not participate in offensive operations against Iran, U.S. official says. CNN, Biden tells Netanyahu tonight was a win. Nothing of value hit in Israel, U.S. officials says. Financial Times, Western diplomats said Israel might be able to tolerate an attack that only did some physical damage to military facilities. Interesting titles, huh? Very interesting titles. Let me read you a tweet that I put out on all of this, which kind of sums everything up. Iran's side, Iran is celebrating a successful retaliation. They responded to the attack on their embassy in Syria. They showcased their military capabilities. They showcased powerful hypersonic missiles. Iran shows it's a force in the region. Iran saves face. Israel's side, CNN, no reports of injuries directly through Iranian attacks. And Israel's military says 99% of weapons fired by Iran intercepted. And finally, the U.S. assessment is that Iran's attacks had been largely unsuccessful. Israel's air defense is strong. U.S. air defense is strong. MIC sales go up, and Israel saves face. I put out a very long post on this, but that's the situation. That is the situation. One second here. I put up another post. Netanyahu claims success in defeating Iran's attack. Israel win. Punishment of Israel completed. No intention to continue. Tehran. Iran win. Don't mess this one up, Biden. Everyone can walk away from this claiming victory. Don't. Remember Biden yesterday? Don't. Well, my message is don't. Don't mess this one up, Biden. We can easily avoid war here. Very easily avoid war here if the Biden White House sends a clear message to Netanyahu. We will not go to war with Iran. period. Nothing that you do is going to make us go to war with Iran. If that's the message that they sent to Israel, then I think we're in the clear. If that's not the message that Israel is getting, and Netanyahu wants to test Biden, then Netanyahu may very well retaliate and strike at Iran, and the Biden White House is going to have to come to, I would imagine, they're going to, I don't want to say have to, they're going to most likely come to the support of Israel. If the Biden messaging is wobbly, then I think Netanyahu is going to cash in some more blank checks. But if the Biden messaging is very strong and very, very firm, then Netanyahu most likely won't retaliate to this retaliation. Biden put out a statement the Biden White House put out an official statement. Let me pull it up for you here. This is from the White House official readout. Tomorrow, I will convene my fellow G7 leaders to coordinate a united diplomatic response to Iran's brazen attack. The key word is diplomatic, not military. Not military response, diplomatic response. So I imagine that's what the Biden White House is telling Netanyahu. We're going to respond in the form of sanctions. We'll go to the UN, try to get a condemnation of this. I imagine that in the Security Council, China and Russia will veto any condemnation. But anyway, they'll probably go to the UN, and then they'll work the sanctions angle. But the key word in this readout from the Biden White House is diplomatic, a diplomatic response, not a military. So even Netanyahu officials that are saying that they're going to respond in 48 hours, they have a bit of an off-ramp. They can come back in 48 hours and say our response has been sanctions against Iran or something like that. It doesn't have to be a military response in 48 hours because I think the UN meeting is scheduled. It's an emergency meeting. It's scheduled for today, this morning, East Coast time, or this afternoon, East Coast, U.S. So anyway, that's the situation. That is the situation. I think I covered everything. There is no need for a wider war. This is an easy one to walk away from. All Biden and his team of foreign policy whiz kids need to do is make it very clear that this ends now for all parties involved. That's what I posted on Twitter and locals. So that's where I see things. That is where I see this situation. I'm not saying that Israel will not respond. Israel may very well attack Iran. I don't know. I'll say right now it's 50-50. I don't know exactly what the messaging from the Biden White House is at the moment to Netanyahu and to Israel. But I'm convinced that Jake Sullivan is trying to avoid a smash with Iran. Other neocons in and around Biden, they absolutely want to smash with Iran. Marco Rubio was quoting scripture yesterday. That's how excited he was about a war with Iran. So let's move on. This was a big story. Let's talk about some other news. So Yeroman and Lord Bibo, they spotted this tweet from Ukraine Battle Map, which says, let me try to read this here. Let's see here. Tonight, Iranian Shahed kamikaze drones are being fired by Russia at Ukraine. There are no U.S. fighter jets intercepting them or any of the thousands of Shaheds launched at Ukraine in this war. Ukraine's fighter jets and air defenses need to intercept Shaheds all by themselves. And Lord Bibo, he said, they slowly realize the difference between ally and proxy. And Yeroman said the same thing. You finally realized in his tweet, you finally realized that you are a proxy, Ukraine, and not an ally. That is a very, very good analysis from those two. It's exactly right. Yeah, that's it. Ukraine is a proxy. Ukraine is a proxy. Israel is an ally to the United States. I actually have a post from Medvedev. What is the difference for Washington between what happened in the Middle East and the events in Ukraine? And I'm taking this from Slaviangrad. America does not want a big war in the Middle East and tries to maintain balance and show restraint. Killings in Gaza worsen Biden's election prospects, and the war between Israel and Iran adds further uncertainty. And the death of our people is indifferent to them. The bigger, the better from all sides. After all, this is, as American officials say, an investment, and they continue to invest. That is the post from Medvedev via Slaviangrad. And yeah, that is exactly right. And even in this post, Medvedev is kind of confirming my analysis and Alexander's analysis on what's happening in Israel and between Israel and Iran. For the Biden White House, they're very careful about escalation with Iran. They're very careful about escalation in the Middle East for the United States, for the Biden White House. But when it comes to Ukraine, it's an investment. It is an investment in Ukraine. The killing is an investment in Ukraine. In the Middle East, Biden would like to go to war in the Middle East. He is a neocon. But the timing of it all. During an election, during a re-election for Biden, it's not working out well for him. So that is the post from Medvedev. Ukraine is a proxy. Israel is an ally for the United States. So after J.D. Vance's post op-ed in the New York Times, where he said, do the math, Ukraine cannot win. I talked about this in my video update yesterday. Senator Ron Johnson spoke to Glenn Greenwald, and he also said that Ukraine is a lost cause. And Ron Johnson is a senator, Republican from Wisconsin. U.S. President Joe Biden is dragging out an obviously lost cause in Ukraine because his administration will not admit to its policy failures in trying to weaken Russia, Senator Ron Johnson has claimed. At some point in time, you have to recognize reality and you have to base your decisions on reality, Johnson said on Thursday in an interview with podcast host Glenn Greenwald. But the Biden administration is not willing to do that. The generals aren't willing to do that because they'd have to admit they've been wrong all along. And Johnson basically said in this interview that the Biden White House, they're just trying to keep this war going at least until the elections, which I've been saying, Alexander's been saying, that Duran has been saying for almost 2 years now. They're now trying to keep this going at least until after the elections. So yesterday, Ukraine energy officials, they told Ukraine citizens, Ukraine customers, that it's time to start saving on electricity. Ukrainians urged to save power. The country's energy infrastructure has been badly damaged by Russian airstrikes. Saving electricity should become a habit for Ukrainians due to supply constraints resulting from Russian airstrikes on energy infrastructure, according to Sergei Kovalenko, the head of Yasno Power Provider. The firm is a subsidiary of DTEK, Ukraine's largest private power generating company. So how can Ukraine fight a war when its energy system has been demolished by Russia? Or is at the mercy of Russia? At any moment, Russia could turn off all the lights in Ukraine. At any moment, they can do it. And they've shown that they can do it. And no air defense systems are going to save them because even if they put Patriots, even if they get Patriots, which the West doesn't have to give, but let's just say they find some Patriots underneath the sofa cushions, even if they get some Patriot systems, they can't stop a Zircon. They can't stop the hypersonic missiles. Russia has shown that at any point in time, they can turn off all the lights in Ukraine. So how does Ukraine fight this war in this type of situation? And how is Ukraine going to create this military industrial complex hub, this military weapons Silicon Valley that they've been talking about for the last year? They're going to produce all kinds of weapons and ammunition, drones and tanks, and Rheinmetall is going to set up shop in Ukraine. Remember that story? The CEO of Rheinmetall saying, "Yeah, we've already got the spots picked out. We're going to start building the production facility, and we're going to crank out hundreds of tanks every year inside of Ukraine." Yeah, how are you going to do that, Mr. CEO of Rheinmetall, without any power? I bet you he got the contracts, though. I bet you they signed the contracts and the money has been budgeted to Rheinmetall. And I bet you Rheinmetall, they're just going to go to the German government and they're going to say, well, we can't really build the production facility in Ukraine because, power and stuff, lights, electricity and stuff. So, let's just keep the contract intact and we'll just build out the tanks and the weapons here in Germany. Or somewhere else. Maybe Germany is too expensive now, so we'll just build a production facility in China. I don't know. Whatever. I don't know. Somewhere cheaper. Somewhere cheaper, where the electricity is cheaper, where Russia's delivering gas, gas and resources cheaply. Maybe Rheinmetall will open up a production facility there. Anyway, yeah. So. Ron Johnson, J.D. Vance, game over. That's what they're saying, game over. So I imagine more senators, more politicians in the U.S. are going to come out and say the same thing. I hope they come out and say the same thing because as I said in my video yesterday, and as Alexander has said in many videos, the Putin administration, they have put on the table the opportunity to negotiate a ceasefire, a deal. It's not going to be pretty for Ukraine. It's not going to be pretty for the collective West, but they have put it out there. Meanwhile, the U.S. is sanctioning Russian metals. On Friday, the U.S. and the U.K. introduced restrictions on trading Russian aluminum, copper, and nickel. Delivery of those commodities of Russian origin to the London Metal Exchange and Chicago Mercantile Exchange has now been prohibited. The U.S. has also banned imports of those metals. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen argued that the move would target the revenue Russia can earn to continue its brutal war against Ukraine. Janet Yellen loves to say that. Responding to the new sanctions on Saturday, Antonov, the ambassador of Russia to the United States, denounced them as another unjustified and politicized step. This decision is not even a shot in the foot, but sort of reckless gunfire, he added. From what I understand, the U.S. does not even deal much with Russian metals. So my guess is that this is another way to hurt Europe. So you have hey, there's my friend. There's my parakeet friend. How you doing, buddy? That's right. Say hello to everyone. Say hello to the world, Mr. Parakeet. All right. I always get excited when I see the parakeets coming out. I miss them. What was I saying? What was I saying? What was I saying? Yeah, this is a way to. I imagine this is a way to hurt Europe because if the U.S. and the U.K. are sanctioning metals, then I imagine Europe is going to sanction metals in their 14th or 414th sanctions package, and this is just another way to hurt Europe. So Janet Yellen, she's not really looking to hurt the Russian economy. I think Janet Yellen is looking to hurt the European economy. That's right. Keep Russia out, keep America in, and keep Germany down. that is the goal of all of this. Let's do one more story, and I kind of have a clown world. Well, you be the judge if it's a clown world. But let's talk a little bit about Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó, who spoke out against the Olympics and their discrimination towards Russia. Olympic restrictions humiliating for Russians, EU states. Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó. He said at a sporting conference that the Olympics are too political. That is what Szijjártó said. They shouldn't be political. Politics should be left out of sporting events, out of the Olympic Games. And he said that it's not right what the Olympics are doing to Russian athletes. It's not right at all. He said it's humiliating, and the goal shouldn't be to humiliate athletes. Politics should be out of the Olympics. And good on you, Peter Szijjártó. Good on you for speaking out against the Olympics. That is why we must support the Friendship Games, which I believe is taking place in September. Anyway, let's do a clown world, and we will wrap this video up. Kind of a clown world, but let's see. Yanis Varoufakis, Germany's Interior Ministry has issued a Betangungsverbot. I know I'm not pronouncing that correctly. A Betangungsverbot against me, a ban on any political activity, not just a ban on visiting Germany, but also from participation via Zoom. Here is the speech whose publication caused this ban. Judge for yourselves. And he includes the speech in this post. So this is not right. I don't know Yanis Varoufakis, never met him. I know of him, obviously, but I've never met him. But what they're doing to him, what Germany is doing to him is not right. This is not right at all. This is a clown world on Germany, actually. And Germany's losing the plot, man. Germany is just losing it. Banning Varoufakis because of a speech he made. And then Germany's going to lecture the world on freedom and human rights and values and stuff like that. Really? Really, Germany? Is that what you're going to do? Not right at all. I do not agree with this. Let's hope that Germany comes to its senses and removes this ban on Varoufakis, but I doubt it. All right, everybody, that is the video. The Duran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, and Rockfin. And go to the Duran shop, limited edition merch in the description box down below. Take care.